Alright, so let's have a look at what we get. So, of course, we get a pot of Retributor armor. So that's cool. So we're going to be painting our Stormcast up, which is really cool. And have another look at these models. Look at that. The detail is really, really impressive. Games Workshop have come a long way in a few years with their plastic technology. So I mean, sculpted bases are amazing as well. So that's our Castigators and Gryph-hound. Can't wait to put those together. Quick note, it does fall apart very easily. That might be just because it's not bonded properly, or it might be a deliberate thing, because previously with the Conquest issues, the pages did tend to get a bit too stuck, and then you run the risk of accidentally ripping the pages when you go to separate them. And of course you need to separate the pages for when you get your folders. Anyway, I digress. So $7.99. There's your Aussie and New Zealand currency there, $19.99 in those respective dollars. And then down here we have Mortal Realms. We've got our Castigators here, little Gryph-hound at the back, and then it says Castigators and Gryph-hound, painting Stormcast Eternals and shooting playthrough. And then it tells you the information there of what you should get at the bottom of the page. So very interesting. Of course, you've got your index as well, so make sure you keep hold of this because it will tell you where to put the pages for when you go to store them in your folder. And you got a little intro from the editor as well, so it's fun. And then we have Stormcast Eternals Storm Hosts. So essentially a Storm Host is just a massive fighting force, numbering between 5,000 and 10,000 Stormcast. Kind of bit like if you're familiar with Warhammer 40,000, then it's similar to the chapters, and before that the legions, but the legions weren't really limited, where the chapters are limited to 1,000 Space Marines. So this is kind of similar in that sort of sense. So yeah, you have a Storm Host, and then that's divided up into chambers, and each chamber specializes in certain things. So I'm sure we'll go through that. So Heroic Hosts, we have a selection of some of the Storm Hosts here. Now each one has their various heraldry, and you know, like the shields are slightly different in design. They've got their own colors, and each have this slightly different behavior about them, mostly depending on how they were forged, what conditions they were forged under, and who the heroes were in their previous life. You've got your Hammers of Sigma, who were the first to be founded and the first to be thrown into the conflict, to fight back the hordes of chaos, and that's why they're the poster boys. They were the first ones to go up against the Khorne dudes, Korgus Cole, and yeah, that was when Age of Sigmar first really took to the shelves. And then of course you've got other examples here, so Stormblood Guard, Sons of Malice, Sons of Gladius, Maelstrom of Light. So these are all pretty cool. Right, these dudes supposedly bleed lightning, and then they get really cheesed off if they get wounded. These guys were forged under a dark moon. These chaps, they love being in the realm of life and get on with the Sylvaneth pretty well. And these dudes are like sort of demon killers and they just love chasing after them. So Stormhost, Hammers of Sigmar. So they're focusing on the breakdown of each Stormhost and a bit more sort of exploration into the character of it. Here you have Chambers of Renown. So it's not all of the chambers, but the ones that are well known, especially because of the heroes that are leading them. So you have the Hammerhands, the Ingloriums and the Heaven Route. Specialities, they run around with the Extremis chamber, which is, you know, all the Star Drakes and the dragon mounted dudes running around. Pretty cool. And then you got great heroes: Neve Black Talon, Vandus Hammerhand, and Estrella Soulbright. But you get all of these heroes. This guy being from the original start set of the Age of Sigmar. This chick was in the Blight War box set. She's now sold singly, but that was a little campaign box where Stormcast were in conflict with Demons of Nurgle, and then you had the that weird dude on the giant snail, which was kind of cool. And then famed Stormkeeps, Perspicarium and Fort Ignis. So that's cool. And on the other side, Conclaves. So Conclaves are how the chambers are split up. So you got your prosecutors, you got your liberators, adjudicators, decimators, retributors, whatever. So each conclave is essentially a group of specialized Stormcast. It's got a bit about their unbreakable shield wall.
For the Hammers of Sigmar are known for the strength and resilience of their glittering golden shield wall. Liberators hold the front line, standing shoulder to shoulder, and their shields form a mobile fortress of Sigmarite armor, interlocking to deflect ranged attacks and keep advancing infantry at bay. Even as they turn aside a charge, their hammers fall upon the attackers, smashing through armor and breaking bones. Nice.
So you got flying chaps, you got dudes with shields or dual weapons, you got dudes with crossbows or big bows, and then you've got dudes with double-handed weapons of all kinds. Right, casticators. Now we have a look through those. These are pretty gnarly. They got giant crossbows that fire maces with Star Drake infused fire captured within the end of that mace, and they just shoot them and they go poof and explode amongst the enemy. How cool is that? And there's a bit on how they do that. Here it is, the ritual in which they arm these maces that they fire at the enemy. So there's a bit on that, and how the Star Drakes they work with the Stormcast, sort of in veneration of their forefather Dracothian, the Great Drake, which was a massive drake in the cosmos that found Sigmar and revived him by breathing life into him. So yeah, that's cool. And then of course there's a bit more description there on what they do. And then Nighthaunt processions. So a procession of Nighthaunt is kind of like a Stormhost. So vast waves of ghosts run under a particular leader, and of course those leaders are commanded by Lady Olinda, the Mortarch of Grief. So she's entrusted by Nagash to to dictate what the processions do, essentially. We have a breakdown here. So of course you have Lady Olinda, Mortarch of Grief, and her lieutenant. God damn it, Big Mac downstairs got me saying that. Lieutenant is lieutenant. The lieutenant, Kurdos Valentian, the Craven King. So he sort of gives their advice and stuff like that. Then you got your Shroud Guard, so Knights of Shrouds, which that was actually a pretty cool model that came out first to indicate what the Nighthaunt would be. And the Bladegeist Revenants, which can be equipped with something different as well. And then we go down into various groups. So you got the Chain Guard, which are made up of Chain Rasping Guardians of Souls. Then you got Death Riders, which are the Hex Wraiths, the Dreadblade Harrows and Black Coaches. The Condemned, which is Spirit Torments, Chain Rasp Horbs again, and what's that? Chain Ghasts, yeah. And then you have Execution Hordes, so the Lord Executioner, followed by tons of Spirit Hosts, the Shrieker Hosts, which are the Tomb Banshees, the Myrmorn Banshees. Yep, I've had to research that. It's actually pronounced Myrmorn, not Myrmorn, which it doesn't matter really. Dreadscythe Harridans, and then you have the Deathstalkers. So you got your Grimghast Reapers, Karn Wraiths, and Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Very nasty. So there's lots of information on what each of those do. And then we have our how to build. So you should be familiar with how to build these types of models already after issue 1 and 2. But there's a great guide here, just in case you are not too sure. And of course there are some posability there, like you can get the heads to look the other way and you can swap the heads around. Not much you could do with the Gryph-hound though, it's quite fixed in place, but it looks fantastic anyway. And look at that, there goes the page again. How to paint. So we get to paint all the Stormcast, so we will be going over all those basics as well. So shake your pot before you open it with 2 hands so you don't splash it everywhere. They've got some bits here like put it on a palette, make sure you don't go all the way up your bristles as well so you don't ruin it. So you need your Retributor armor and Corax white for this. Now for the Gryph-hound you paint the entire thing white, so repeat the process that you did with the Nighthaunt. You're going to have to do a few coats, make sure that each coat is dry, and then you move on to the Castigators and Sequitors. So the Castigators are already in gold, the plastic is gold, so you have to be careful about keeping an eye on which areas you've already painted and which areas you haven't, because it can be quite easy to miss bits when it's already the same color. But you might not need to do as many layers, maybe 2 at the most. But when you're painting over grey plastic, you'll need to do 3 or even 4. Interesting though that they're telling you to paint the whole base gold as well, when it's only the feet that you need to paint gold. Especially after you're painting that base white. So we'll see how that goes. And there you go, how it should look. Then you got your reinforcements. So it's a nice little scenario about how the Castigators are coming to save the Sequitors' butts from being overrun. And then we have our little fight here. So you get your Chain Rasps, you get your little board, ruler, the 6 dice, you pop the Gryph-hound in the middle, your Castigators out, and then Castigators get to go first. So before, in the previous issues, you had just pile in, attack, pile in, attack. Now it's introducing the shooting phase. So it's very much like a fighting phase. Choose an enemy that's within your range, but they don't give you a range because you're too close. You roll your attacks, you roll to hit, and then you dish out the damage that way. Then you move on to your attack sequence. So you pile in, and of course you pile in with the Gryph-hound because you don't want to get your shooters into combat until you really have to. So you get them in there, you do the attacks, see what you do, and then the chain rasps get to do their piling. And of course they don't have a shooting phase because they've nothing to shoot with. And there we go, we have the war scrolls as well, so keeping you up to date with the idea of the war scrolls. And there you go, you got your sequence of play here, which is quite handy as well. And then of course, what's to come? So issue 4, we'll get the Glaive Wraith Stalkers plus Nihilak Oxide, and issue 5, the exclusive model for the Mortal Realms, Sandria Assurebolt. So that is that issue. Let me know what you think, and please make sure you do subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell icon so you get the notifications for more videos. I will be doing painting and building and playthroughs. Also, I've got another 3 issues now because of course I get my deliveries monthly, so keep an eye out for that. I will be spamming in the coming weeks of all these videos, so until then, I'll see you then. Peace.